Welcome everyone to Egg Harbor Library. Today we're going to be talking about electric cars, EV, electric vehicles, and you've probably seen our charging stations at the Egg Harbor Library, the Crest Pavilion. And so I'm going to have Jess introduce our special guest who will be helping us talk about electric cars today. Okay, Jess.
Hi, this is Jess, and I'm the manager of the Crest Pavilion. I have the pleasure of working with Bill Freyman. He actually was a very generous donor who donated to the Crest Pavilion and actually helped us to get our our universal car charging station installed. So, Bill, thank you so much for joining us today.
Oh, you're welcome.
Okay, so Janine, I've got the slideshow up here. So
many of us, including me, I'm thinking about getting an electric car, an EV vehicle. And so I've been reading up on it. Consumer Reports, US News had a nice article. And so I thought it would be so much better if we had someone who actually has an EV vehicle, an electric vehicle, talk to us about it. So we have 10 questions to ask you, and this will help people as they consider buying a car. So Jess, let's get to that first question. Does the car have enough range? And so I've been looking at all the different range. I mean, you don't, when you're getting a gas car, you're like, range? What does that mean? So Bill, why don't you tell us what that all means?
Sure. I think one of the biggest drawbacks or one of the biggest challenges people face when they take a look at having an electric car is what's called range anxiety. And that is am I just going to run out of juice somewhere? You know, how far will the car go? How long does it take to charge? And that's the major struggle that electric car manufacturers have been facing, and they've been doing a very good job dealing with it. Although we're still in the early years. I don't know. Do any of the guys own an electric vehicle who are on the program? We're here. Anybody else own one? No. Well, no, I have. Yeah. What I have is actually a plug-in hybrid that I've had for 6 years. It's a Ford C-Max Energy. And one of the reasons why we bought that particular car was that at the time, 6 years ago, there weren't very many choices for complete electric. And then the range anxiety issue was a very real one. And of course, living in Door County, you know, if you want to go to Green Bay and back, you got a 120-mile round trip, and none of the cars would make it. So we actually have the plug-in hybrid, and it's been an extremely useful car for us up here. But that comes down to, you know, when you're looking at these cars, you got to decide, what am I going to do with it? How is the car going to be used? How far do I tend to drive? And things of that sort. And then you can go and make choices. It seems like the cars now fall into roughly 3 categories. You've got, or maybe 4. You've got the regular standard hybrid, like the Toyota Prius, which always runs with gasoline and electric combined back and forth. It actually has no real all-electric range. It's always running in hybrid form. Then you have the plug-in hybrid, which is like the car I have, which has a small battery pack, and the car can run on electricity only for a limited number of miles, and then switches to hybrid mode back and forth. Then you have a set of purely electric vehicles that generally have a range of anywhere from 100 to 150 or 160 miles, all electric. My son and his wife, a Nissan Leaf, which is pure electric. And then you move into more expensive all electric vehicles like the new Mustang Mach-E, many of the Teslas, the new Ford pickup truck, the Lightning, the F-150 Lightning. There you're looking at ranges anywhere from 250 to 350 miles on a charge. So it's all a matter of the size of the battery pack and the design of the vehicle. So depending on what your need is, there's a vehicle out there somewhere that probably works for you.
Okay, yeah, that,
The Ford truck that you mentioned, is that, so that's the only truck, right? That is a, I don't, or are you aware of if there are any other trucks that are hybrids?
Well, there are a number of hybrid trucks. For instance, Ford just announced a new small truck called the Maverick. The standard version of that comes in pure hybrid. So that's a small pickup that's going to get about 40 to 45 miles to the gallon because it'll be running back and forth between electricity and gas. Some of Toyota's vehicles are also hybrid. There are a number of hybrid minivans. Chrysler actually has a minivan that is a plug-in hybrid. And then, of course, you get into the new trucks, the new electric trucks, and they're just now hitting the market.
and that's real popular up here, I would think, because people want to pull boats and RVs. And do you see that being a problem with an EV vehicle, or is that kind of why they're going towards the SUVs and trucks?
Well, I think the all-electric pickups and SUVs, the towing issue is going to be real because the range on your electric vehicle always depends on the conditions, how many folks are in it, how fast you're driving, whether you're running the heater or your electric seats, whether you're towing something. And obviously, the more kilowatts that you're pulling out of that battery, the shorter your range is going to be. I don't have any experience towing with an electric vehicle, but I could imagine that it's going to be a substantial loss of range depending on what you're pulling.
So if you were one of those people looking, you'd probably want one that's the hybrid that will kick into the gas mode when your battery is low. Is that what happens?
Well, maybe. It depends. For instance, I think Ford did a study when they worked on the F-150 Lightning to find out how far commercial use of pickups, how far they generally traveled in a day. And I think they found it was like 180 miles. Okay. Well, you can probably do that pulling a small work trailer or something like that. And so the vehicle would work just fine for that kind of commercial use, you see. So you really have to define how you use the vehicle. In our case, for instance, with the C-Max, my experience now over 6 years is when I'm running around the peninsula, when I'm running from my house into Egg Harbor to go to Main Street Market or down to the marina with the boat or over to Bailey's Harbor to the Ridges, I can do all of that all electric and I never burn any gasoline at all. Okay. If I want to drive to Green Bay, I'm going to be running hybrid back and forth. So for me, over the life of my car, the first 6 years, I've driven 77 miles for every gallon of gas that I've burned.
Wow.
Okay. And
That's good.
There are times like during the summer when I'm just running around up here with the car, when I get the very best range, when I'll go 1,900 miles between fill-ups,
Yeah.
and so it's, it all depends on how you use the car. Now in the winter, it doesn't do that well because when batteries get cold and you've got the electric seat on and off and you're burning the heater, you just don't go as far.
Yeah, you don't think about those things, or when it's really hot and you're running that air conditioning, yeah, it's going to pull on your battery.
Well, it's funny, for instance, we laugh about it here at home, the seat heater. Most of us get in our car in the winter, you flip on the seat heater and you drive with the seat heater on all the time. Well, in the C-Max, we get in the winter, we turn on the seat heater, and as soon as our bottoms are warm enough, we turn the seat heater off because otherwise, I'm burning kilowatts I don't have to burn.
Yeah.
Or what I do is, if the car's plugged in the garage, which is where my charger is, on my app on my phone, I can have the car warm itself up, and it'll draw all the power it needs from the house as opposed to its own battery. So the cabin will be warm when I go out there to drive away. So it's that's a little advantage that's kind of nice.
Yeah, that is nice. So that's leads us to our next question. Can I charge my electric vehicle at home? And we're hearing yes from you, but it looks like, she's just in this picture using her regular outlet, and it's outside. Are you using a regular outlet, or what are you using? Did you have to have something changed at your house?
Well, yeah, what the deal is you've got different levels of charging. Okay, that's going to determine how quickly you can recharge your car. There's the level 1 charger, which is the normal 120 volt power cord, basically. Goes from a standard plug to the car. And that takes about a century to recharge your car if you're using one of those. I mean, it takes forever. Even on the small battery like mine, my car's only got a 7.5 kilowatt battery, which is small. And it would take 8 hours to recharge that at 120 volts. When I bought the car, I had a 220 line put in the garage, basically just like you would for a dryer or an electric stove. And I have what's called a level 2 charger in the garage, and that will recharge my car in about an hour and a half if it's totally depleted. It's convenient, every time I pull into the garage, I plug it in and walk away. So every time I go out to drive it, it's full. Then there's the level 3 charger, which is getting into what's called the fast charging capability. My car does not have the ability to do that, but those chargers work very quickly. You can get hundreds of miles of range in a Tesla in 20 minutes by plugging into a fast DC charger like that. But I don't have those. Level 2 chargers are the ones you find most often.
So what do we have at the Crest Pavilion? Is that a level 2 or 3?
All of the chargers there are basically level 2 chargers. Now, 2 of them are specific to Tesla cars, and 2 of them are universal.
Okay.
Okay.
So you have to use a Tesla only with the Tesla charger, only with a Tesla vehicle?
Correct.
Oh, okay. All
yeah,
right.
and they have a proprietary system and a series of superchargers across the country. That's a system that works. It's kind of like an Apple product. Apple products all work great with Apple products. All right, and the Teslas and the Tesla supercharging stations, they all work beautifully together. The others, the universals, that's a developing world right now, and yeah, Tesla's outside of that, but everybody else is in the other world.
Okay.
Well, and Bill, can you get an adapter though? Don't like some people use the adapters? They're not as good, but.
Well, I know that you can get an adapter so a Tesla can use a standard charger. I've never heard of it going the other way.
Got it.
Jess, let's go to the next slide, because that'll now go with the whole electricity. Is this so go to question number 3. How much does electricity cost? Are we going to be spending a lot of money here in Door County on charging our EV vehicles?
Okay,
Bill?
so here's the deal. If you're charging your vehicle at home, okay, you're paying the same rate that you pay for your house. What's that? 13 cents, 10 cents, 10 to 13 cents, I think, a kilowatt.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. If you're using a public charging station, particularly those that are for profit where you have to pay, okay, you're going to pay more like 30 cents or 40 cents a kilowatt. Okay. So it's expensive to fill up at a commercial site than it is to fill up at home. And so a
And
lot of
our,
people,
oh, I'm sorry, go
yeah.
on.
So if you have a car that you use to commute to work, all right, and most Americans don't commute very far, all right, you're not going to ever need to charge at a public station because you can come back home and charge, all right, and that's very inexpensive. Even the 30 or 40 cents a kilowatt is going to beat gasoline prices in the amount you spend per mile. So yeah, that's the way that works out.
All right. And then we have the one, well, we have our station here, and I know the Ridges, and you're saying one of ours is a Tesla. I didn't even know that. And one of
Two of
ours
them.
is, they're both Teslas?
There are four
Oh, there's
charging
four.
ports.
Oh,
Yeah.
there's four.
Yeah, and it's on
I was
two
thinking
pillars,
one
as you see.
okay. All right.
Yeah.
I get it.
And two of them are specific for Tesla, and two of them are universal.
Okay. All right. Ah, okay. And so you probably know where all of the charging stations are in Door County and Green Bay.
Well, Door County for sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
If I go to
And
Green Bay, I don't charge down there. With my car's limited range, I just accept the fact I'm going to be driving hybrid mode there and back, and I
yeah.
don't worry about it.
Yeah. So we have the stations, and I know the Ridges, and where else do they have charging stations?
Can you let me share a screen?
Yeah, I'll go ahead and stop share, Bill, so you can share.
Can you guys all see that?
Yeah.
Okay, this is a program called Plug Share, and you use it. Oh, oops, sorry about that. And you use it to look for charging stations anywhere in the country. And basically, you just click on one, and you get all the information that you need, as you can see there. Tells where the station is located, gives you information about payment that's required, tells you the plugs that are available, and then you can actually see that folks will sign in, check in. They'll say what their experience was at that station, and so on. You can even see photos of the station in use. Like this is a Mustang Mach-E that was charging here just the other day. There's our station in use. That's a Tesla. That's a Nissan Leaf right there, an all-electric vehicle. This is a person who plugged into one of the lamp posts before we had a charging station. And this was a level 1 charger, the type that I said took forever. So that was before we even had a charging station there. But it's a nice program, and it allows you to take a look at various places. The Bailey's Harbor Town Hall, there's another one there at the Ridges, which shows up right behind it. And the Blacksmith Inn has one there.
Wow.
They have a Tesla and a Universal, just like we do. So you can. This is the sort of thing that folks use to help, find what they need. They're looking for stations around. This is the new one down in Sturgeon Bay at the City Hall.
And are these mostly honor systems, or are you plugging in with money?
It's a combination of all of the above.
Okay.
These, like this one down in Sturgeon Bay, I know is public and free. Some of the others are part of charging systems where you actually have to put in your credit card and pay for the electricity that you need. So
I remember being out in Oregon last year, and there was like every filling station had a row of chargers.
Yeah.
And we don't have that here. I mean, so it's pretty strange when you saw
Right.
it.
Yesterday, I got back from California, and when I was in the Bay Area, our kids live in Berkeley, and I drove their all electric car the whole time we were there. Their electric Nissan Leaf, and I mean, it's just super. And of course, there you can charge the Safeway, you can charge, at Whole Foods, you can charge wherever you need to charge, and there are various brands. There's like ChargePoint, which is a brand. You can sign up for a ChargePoint account, put your credit card in your app, and then every time you plug in with ChargePoint, it automatically charges your card, and you're set to go. But yeah, PlugShare is a really neat program to use, and I use it on my phone, on my iPad.
So that's an app, the PlugShare.
Yes, it is, and you can
have
download
a-
it and just take a look
Okay.
at it. There's no cost
Yeah.
involved.
Okay. I downloaded one and it was, I wasn't, this looks a lot better than the one I was looking at. There must be several.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
then some of the companies like ChargePoint, they have their own
Yeah.
that'll take you to ChargePoint stations. Another one is Electrify America, which is a VW product. VW, as you know, has gone bananas with electric cars. They're converting their whole line to electric cars, and they've built a series of fast charging stations across the country called Electrify America. And what they've done is they've taken spots along all of our major highways from coast to coast, and they build stations every 100 miles or 200 miles, so that folks can travel cross country and make their stops with little planning. Those cars, most of the all electric cars, will actually do a little route planning for you, help you find the stations, and tell you how far it is, whether you can make it to the next one, so you can plan out what you're going to do. Because it's a little bit different than driving a gasoline car. In a gas car, we tend to drive until we're nearly out of gas, and then we fill up, and we drive until we're nearly out of gas, and we fill up again. In electric cars, they work best and charge fastest if you're charging your battery anywhere between 20% and 80%. For instance, if you go to a fast charging station, it'll charge your car very quickly up to 80%. Okay, very fast. But that last 20% will probably take as long as the first 80. All right, because what happens is it needs to slow down the charging process to make sure it doesn't stress the battery and overheat it or anything like that. So it gets to 80% and then it really slows. So when you start driving an all-electric vehicle, you learn very quickly to plan your trip so that you're always filling up at, when you're down, and you always fill up between 20 and 80%. And because it's quicker to make more stops with shorter charge times than it is to drive your battery all the way down and then have to make a long stop with a long charge. So it's just little things that you learn to live with, just a little different.
I mean, we have to take bathroom breaks. So, you can kind of plan that. That would make sense if you're doing a road trip. And then they have, because everyone always stops. So you just plan your stops efficiently.
Yeah, actually, it could probably make for more relaxed traveling if you get used to it.
Yeah. And that's our next question. Can I take my EV on road trips? It's like this article must know exactly what kind of questions we're going to come up with. But yeah, so you can. We just talked about that. It sounds like you can, even if you can with yours, because yours is a hybrid. So for sure.
Yeah, the hybrids, it's no issue.
Yeah.
I mean, because you can get gas anywhere. The EVs, it's interesting. There are a number of YouTube videos that are interesting to watch. Teslas the new Mustang Mach-E's and things, and making long distance road trips in them, and then blogging basically the experience, so that you can see what they went through, how far they, had to plan ahead, what the difference was driving through the mountains as opposed to driving across the prairie. All of those things are there. It's interesting to watch. Fact is, the charging stations are becoming more and more numerous, and it's going to become easier all the time.
Yeah. When you 6 years ago, were there any incentives out there for you when to buy a hybrid?
Yeah. Back then, and it's an incentive that's still in place. The federal government was encouraging the purchase of electric vehicles in order to jumpstart the industry. And so they offered and still offer tax credits for the purchase of a vehicle. And it was all dependent on battery size. The largest credit you could get was $7,500 tax credit. In my case, with my car and the 7.5 kilowatt hour battery, I think I had a $2,500 credit. Those credits were good with any of the manufacturers until that manufacturer produced a certain number of vehicles. And once they were on their feet, then that incentive disappeared. So for instance, if you buy a Tesla today, you probably won't have any federal incentives backing you. But if you buy a Ford Mach-E, for instance, right now, which is a new car, they haven't sold very many of them yet, the incentive package is there. So it was all designed, I thought it was pretty smart actually, to help jumpstart the industry by making it less expensive for consumers to purchase right off the bat. And
so GM is one of the ones that it's no longer available for. I was surprised to hear that. Tesla, you hear Tesla EV vehicles, but GM, I didn't think they were even in the business of making EV vehicles.
Well, the Chevy Bolt, B-O-L-T, has been and was really the very first really good all-electric car that had a decent price. And by that, I mean mid-30s. Okay. If you're buying a Tesla at 60 grand, I figure you can get on your own. But, trying to get somebody who, who doesn't want to have a 7-year car loan, you get a Chevy Bolt, it could go 250, 270 miles on a charge, a really good range. And they were in the mid-30s. So it was a great buy. There was an incentive on my car because it had the battery, and I utilized that. And, it was great.
Yeah, I'm sorry,
Yeah,
Bill.
I was going to say there's also some talk.
on.
There's also some talk that incentives might be increased during the Biden administration now, where there'll be an even bigger push to electrify. So we'll have to see how that goes.
Well, that's good to hear. I hadn't heard that. Maybe I'll wait, because I was looking at the RAV4 Prime, which is I thought would be a good vehicle, and it has the tax credit of the 7,500, which
right. That is a really wonderful vehicle in a lot of ways. It takes the whole plug-in hybrid concept, like my car, to a next level. It's got a much longer all-electric range. Unlike my car, it can regenerate electricity into the main chunk of the battery on its own while it's running. Hybrid, it can actually recharge the main battery. Mine cannot. Mine has to be plugged in. The problem with it is Toyota's got a very limited number of those for sale, and they're only selling it in certain states, like California. And you can't. For instance, here, when I wanted to buy my car, at the time this was still Witt Ford in Sturgeon Bay, but they aren't certified to sell Ford's electric cars. I had to go to Broadway down in Green Bay to get it. And because it requires a certain equipment and training, and some dealers had invested in that and some had not. So I had to buy my car down in Green Bay.
Okay, so let's go on to number 7. And I know what my answer would be to this, but should I buy a new or used electric car? And I mean, are there really used electric cars out there?
Yeah, there are. For instance, my car, the C-Max, which, it's been on the market for 6 years. Well, it's no longer being sold by Ford. They've moved beyond that. But there are used C-Maxes out there. And some of them, the people who had them didn't plug them in very often. And so they didn't get full advantage of the car, and they haven't obviously worn the battery in any way. One thing I will say is that the manufacturers, in order to build confidence, I think, put 10-year warranties on the electric drivetrain. So my car's warranty is, still in effect if I should have a battery problem or something like that. In the time I've had my car, I've had one problem with it, and that was a high voltage cooling fan that the bearing went bad on it. And I had to have that cooling fan replaced, but that was all warranted coverage.
And then leasing, I mean, you can lease an EV, but is that something you want to do? You'll miss that tax break, and it'll be half the price.
That's also true if you buy a used electric car. There's no tax break on a used one.
Okay.
Right.
You lose some.
Yeah, in terms of leasing, I suppose that's the same kind of question you always have when you're talking buy versus lease. I think maybe the one way that might be advantageous is if you are simply totally unsure as to whether you'll like it. I can guarantee that after you've driven an electric car, you'll never want to go back to a gas one.
Yeah.
Okay. I will never have another gasoline powered car. It's just, they're wonderful. They're just absolutely great. There are many fewer moving parts. They're quicker. They're always on. They turn on and off. They're just wonderful. And but maybe you want to lease one just to see if you like it, and then make the commitment after that.
I wonder if any of these companies like Avis, or when you're on a vacation, if you can try an EV car. I don't know if that would be, just on your vacation, have an EV car, like you have a convertible on your vacation.
Yeah, I don't know that, but I'd be surprised if that's not going to happen.
Yeah. So Jess, let's go to the next.
Or find a friend who will let you drive his car around.
Sure. Yeah. Jess, let's go to the next question. And you start to touch on this about the maintenance of an EV car. And you told us about your one problem, but I heard there's just not that much to break.
Well, there aren't. I mean, electric motors they just have fewer parts than the gasoline engine, and you don't have oil changes. Okay, you don't have the tune-ups. I mean, there's no maintenance on the motor at all. And if you have a hybrid, your maintenance on the gasoline portion of the car is also much less because you're not using it that often. I mean, I use the gas motor in my C-Max probably a third of the time that somebody else would be, if the car weren't a hybrid. So even then, my oil changes and stuff are all spread out over a much longer period of time than they would be otherwise. Now, wiper blades and all that stuff, that's not going to be any different. As a
Yeah.
matter of fact, tire wear might be up a little bit because EVs tend to be heavier.
Oh, heavier. Okay.
Yes, because
All
of the
right.
battery packs.
Yeah. Oh, that's interesting. And then insurance, I heard tends to be a little bit more, but that would make sense because the cars are more expensive.
Yeah. I have a Ford Escape and my Ford C-Max, and the C-Max is slightly more expensive to insure than the Escape.
Are there
Part of that is the Escape is a very common vehicle, and I don't think the Escape is very expensive to insure in the first place.
Yeah.
But it's not like it was something that was so outrageous I didn't want to pay it.
Yeah. And I
Now,
think
if you-
I read that there are some that might even give you a discount that they and then some are more. I mean, you'd have to, I guess, do your homework for insurance.
Right. Yeah, I think so. Mine, I didn't seem to notice much difference.
Okay. All right. Well, that's good. That's good to know. So that's our 10 questions. And I know you've helped me make my decision. I'm not looking to buy this year, but next year. And maybe next year the tax advantage will be a little bit better. And it looks like I was going to go towards the RAV4. I've been talking to the dealer and he keeps on saying, well, we don't have one in, but now you've made it clear it's only in California. So
and I don't know why they were sending so few of them over here. It was like 7,500 for the whole country. They'll sell a gazillion of them if they get them onto the market. It's just it's going to be a terrific vehicle.
Yeah.
It takes the plug-in hybrid like my car, like I say, to the next level. And it'd be a terrific vehicle. It's got a towing capacity and everything. Plus 4-wheel drive. Yeah.
And that's what I was looking for because I've got a little teardrop I'm purchasing. And it's just a lightweight vehicle. I don't need a big truck. So it would work with that. So Jess, do we have any questions out there from people in the Zoom room or on Facebook?
Yeah, I don't know. If anyone has questions, feel free to jump in. We don't have any questions on Facebook.
Bill, this is Tom. I have a couple of questions actually. On your hybrid, do you have any problem with finding people to do maintenance on that car when you have the combination of both electric and standard engine in it?
Well, I haven't, but I haven't had to take it in except for the one issue. I take the car to Jim Olson down in Sturgeon Bay for oil changes, which are rare, tire rotation. If I had a problem with, I haven't had any others, but if I did, I'd take it there first. They just can't work on the heavy electronics and the electric motor. If I had a problem with any of that, I'd have to go down to Broadway, or what's the other Ford dealer down there? I think it starts with a D. In any case, the two big Ford dealers in Green Bay are both certified for electric, but I just haven't had an issue. And I wouldn't want any, grease monkey just fiddling around with it. He'd probably electrocute himself, and that would be bad.
Okay. Yeah. Another question I had is, you had your car, you said like 6 years. Have you noticed any battery degradation over time? Does it take longer to charge it or anything like that? Have you noticed?
Have not noticed it. It's always a big difference winter and summertime. Right now it's in its absolute, it's battery car heaven right now with these temperatures we've got. So I'm getting, with the little 7.5 watt battery, I get anywhere from 20 to 24 miles all electric before it switches to hybrid. all hybrid. I can choose to run all electric. I can choose to let it run automatically. It'll always default to the electric first and then to the hybrid. In the winter, that drops down to maybe 16 miles, all electric. But that's, you know, the battery's cold, it's got to run the heater and things of that sort. So, yeah, no, I haven't noticed any difference in the 6 years. And I know my son had a Prius hybrid run that they ran for 200,000 miles and stuff, and you know, never had a problem with the batteries or anything. So.
Okay, and then the last question I had, and you maybe haven't looked into that, I was curious about if you get an all-electric vehicle, whether the electric providers up here provide anything on like off-peak pricing or something, so that you could charge your car, you know, from midnight till 5 o'clock in the morning and get a rate that would be less than what you would pay during the day. Whether you've ever looked into anything like that.
You know, I haven't. Wisconsin isn't exactly at the forefront of promoting electric vehicles. Okay, it's really pretty disappointing, actually. But I don't know whether for the homeowner there's an advantage for like doing your laundry at night. Do we know? Do our rates drop in the evening here? Because
I don't know. I always do it in the evening, thinking and
Yeah.
running my dishwasher always in the evening because that's kind of what you learn to do.
Yeah, because your home charger is just going to run through your regular meter. They don't know whether you're charging a car or, you know, running the stove. And so whatever you're charged in the evenings, you know, the cars do have the ability to do what they call I think on my car it's called a value charge, where it allows you to set the time it'll charge itself. So I could plug it in and, excuse me a second, I can plug the car in the garage and it won't charge until it's scheduled to charge. So if I had that ability to charge in the middle of the night at a cheaper rate, I could take advantage of it. But to be honest, I've never noticed any difference in my electric bill with this little, you know, battery that this car has. I mean, I just never noticed. And, but it's not a full electric vehicle either.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks. I appreciate that. I thought this was a very good presentation, and I'm glad that you were on it and somebody that actually had one could talk about it for a bit. So I really appreciate it.
I could show you what the car looks like if you'd be interested in just taking a quick peek at it.
Sure.
If you give me a share once again. Hang on a sec. Got to go to the right one here. Oops. I don't know. What do you guys see?
We see your car.
Oh, good. Okay. So that's that's the little C-Max, and you can see the charging point there on the fender. And it's just you know, this is like a first generation electric vehicle for Ford, and the drivetrain is still basically in use, just improved. Looks just like a regular car inside. The difference in it comes in the back end here, because this was a vehicle that Ford had designed prior to electrification. Okay, and you've got to watch out for this if you buy a used early electric vehicle. This car was sold in Europe with various gasoline engines and I think a small diesel. And then when they brought it to the US, they made it a hybrid. But this chunky thing right here that takes up about half the trunk is the battery.
Wow.
Okay. Yeah. And so, yeah, this suitcase back here really ate up a lot of trunk space. Now it's still useful. I can put the seats down and all of that and fine. But that, you know, that was the one drawback to the early hybrids, and particularly the plug-in hybrids, because they needed a bigger battery. that the manufacturers had to find a place to stick these. Now,
Mhm.
on all the new electric cars, they're using basically, like, I think of it as a skateboard. The whole bottom of the car is the battery pack. And then you've got motors hung out over each end of that driving the wheels. And so your center of gravity and all of the weight of the battery system is down at the very bottom of the car. And basically you're sitting on your seats and everything are sitting on top of it. So this whole chunky thing here, of course, in this car, the body had already been designed and everything, and there was nowhere else to put it. It's kind of interesting. This was when the car was brand new, and you can see it says it's getting about 49 miles to the gallon. It only had 400 miles on it then. I think that was like the first week and a half I owned the car. This now reads that I've average over the car is 77 miles for every gallon of gas. Under the hood of a plug-in hybrid, here you see the gasoline motor, or it's called the ICE, the internal combustion engine. And back here is the electric drivetrain, the electric motor and stuff. And all of these are high voltage cables and things. That's why you don't want to just any old guy messing with it, because they will probably kill themselves. So yeah, it's pretty tucked in there.
I noticed that some charge in the front, just looking at the different people that come and charge. So it's like in a different place for the different.
Yeah, my son's car, the Nissan Leaf, charges right up here on the very
Yeah.
nose of the car. There's a compartment
Yeah.
that opens. It seems like the left-hand front fender is very popular for many of them. Tesla's in the rear, I believe. But yeah, so they're plugged in at the house. So that's basically what it looks like at night when I go to bed. I just drive it in the garage, plug it in, and walk away.
Hmm.
So very easy.
Cool.
Yeah. So
Nice.
yeah.
Well, any other questions, Jess? Out there on Facebook?
Let me take a look. I don't see any. This is very educational. This is exciting. I feel like just, anecdotally, and maybe it was COVID last year, but I feel like this year we've really seen an uptick, even just in the last couple of months, of people using our chargers.
Oh,
and it
yeah.
might be tourism too, but a lot of people will just pull in and they'll charge here, and then they'll hang out at the library or they'll go shopping. And so I think,
that's the point of our chargers. We could double that station and fill it, because we have something for people to do while the car's charging. Whether it's visiting the library, walking around the crest, walking down into the village and having a beer and a sandwich, just sightseeing. It's a great spot. Some chargers are kind of shoved to the back. Fish Creek is a good example. They have a charging station back behind their library building. There's a garage way at the back end of the lot, and it's up next to that. Okay, it's kind of like forgotten out there in the wastelands. But the more convenient the station, the more often it's going to get used. And ours gets, as you know, I read the reviews on PlugShare all the time to see what people are saying, and they're liking it. I mean, it's just a grand spot for it.
Yes, it is.
yeah.
Plus, they work well. We had some teething problems at first, but once we got those sorted out, they charge, and they charge pretty quickly. With electric cars, the car will only charge as fast as the charging unit inside the car will accept the power. So even if you connect to the most powerful charging station out there, your car's limited by its own ability to charge. Now, is not matched by the charging station. And so your car would take more than the charging station can deliver. Other times the system will deliver more than the car can take, but it all talks to itself, but it's always a combination of all of that. And right now we've got a nice set of chargers out there. They do.
We
pretty well.
do. We do. And we have you to thank for that. Thank you.
Okay. Well, I like it. It's the future. It's the right thing
Yeah.
to do for the environment. I don't do it to save money on gas. I mean, that's not the point. The state of Wisconsin charges me more for my license plates every year, 75
that's
bucks extra,
right.
because
That's
I have
right.
What the
a
heck?
plug-in hybrid. So
I heard
they want
that.
me to pay my gas tax. Okay. And so my license plate has a $75 tax on it, beyond the normal cost of the license plate. And if it were an
Yes.
all electric car, it'd be higher than that. But gotta get that money in there. So
Yeah, I heard that. I heard that. Yeah.
yeah. So
Well, thank you for taking part of your day to talk with us. We've, I think, learned a lot, and our patrons who are listening have learned a lot. And we really appreciate you giving your time. You really gave us an education.
I'm glad to have the opportunity, because I really think it's the way to go. It's the right thing to
Yeah.
do for a lot of reasons. And plus, I think they're just terrific cars. They've never been
Yeah.
better.
Great. Well, thank you so much.
Welcome.
And thanks, Jess. And we'll say goodbye. Goodbye, everyone. Thanks for coming.
Thanks for
today.
putting
Bye,
us on. I
everyone.
really
Thank you,
appreciate it.
Bill.